Hey, good morning,
Morning.
Mordechai and
Morning.
uh, Ezra, Robert, Moshe. Good morning. Okay, we are holding. We just what do we do? We just turned the page to 52b. Basically, we've been learning all about the Yetzer Hara, and the Gemaras that we learned yesterday. We said that there's many names to the Yetzer Hara, 7 names to the Yetzer Hara, and the Gemara said, went through each of these names. It says, uh, Hashem calls the Yetzer Hara Ra, Yetzer Lev Adam Ra Min Urav. The Yetzer, referring to the Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Lev Adam Ra Min Urav. He's evil from his youth. And Moshe calls him an Aral, calls the Yetzer Hara an Aral. It says, Maltem as Arlas Levavchem. That's referring to the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination. David calls him Tameh, Leiv Tahar Brali Alakim, create for me a Leiv, a pure heart, because I have a impure heart, which is the impurity of the Yetzer Hara. Shlomo calls the Yetzer Hara Soine, an enemy. And here we had these two pshatim, two interpretations. What the pasuk means: if your enemy is hungry, you should give him bread, and if he's thirsty, you should give him water. So we would the way we translated it, um, that if your enemy is hungry, you should give him lechem, which referred to a milchama, a war. I should give him in other words, make a war with him. And it referred to the war of Taita. This was the way Rashi learned it. Let me just make sure here. Rashi on the side. Um, Ra'iv Sainacha, your Yetzer Hara is hungry. Achileo Lechem, bother him into the war of Torah. Hatrichehu b'malchamta shel Torah, bring him, uh, or hatrifeyu, basically get him involved in the war of Torah, meaning discuss, learn Torah, and if he's thirsty, which is the evil inclination, you should give him also Torah, give him to drink, which also meant Torah. And it's brought down that the bread of Torah and the mayim of Torah, one refers to Torah Shebachsav, Torah Shebal Peh, different parts of Torah you should learn, and that will calm down your enemy. It'll pacify him. It's Yashli Menulach. It says Hashem was Yeshalem Lach. He'll pacify him. And the other interpretation was that that the lechem and the mayim meant that you should, so to speak, give in to him slightly, meaning that you're not going to win him. You give in to him slightly. He's hungry. Give him a little to eat. Give him a little to drink, and then but that's it. And this was the understanding of the Marsha, right? But he's calling him a sainach, an enemy, and he says that if he's hungry, you give him, don't let him indulge, but you don't indulge, but you still you give him to eat, and in a little amount. It's like you give in to some slight to some minimal extent, which of course is a delicate topic. But the Maharsha says this. He says, "Tain like tsas taivasa." He says, give him a little of his desire, things that are necessities, like give him bread, give him water to drink, and with this, yashlim imach kishatiten like tsas taivasa. He will be pleasant with you, be at peace with you when you give him a little of his taiva, of his desire. So he wants you to indulge, but you take what you need. Take give him something that's necessity, that and that should bring peace. But anyway, the bottom line is he's called an enemy. That's the purpose of the Gemara. It's just how to fit it in the verse, what it's referring to. But it's talking about the Yetzer Hara, your enemy. Yeshaya calls him a michshal, a stumbling block. And he refers to this verse in Isaiah that talks about clearing the path, get rid of the evil inclination, and which basically means these negative thoughts, evil, inappropriate plans, and which are the coming from the Yetzer Hara. So he's called a michshal, a stumbling block, obstacle. Yechezkel called him an Evan, a stone. Asirosius Levi Evan. Remove the Yetzer Hara from you. Is called the heart of stone from your flesh, and I will give you a heart of. I will remove the heart of stone from your flesh, and I will give you a heart of flesh. Which means the evil inclination is going to get rid of the evil inclination. It's talking about the Yemais HaMashiach. When Mashiach comes, we're going to get rid of the Yetzer Hara. Yoel called him a Tzefaini, a hidden one. Why is the Yetzer Hara called the hidden one? So on a simple level, he's called the hidden one because he basically hides until he's ready to take advantage. And he's also called hidden because he sometimes dresses up in a garment that makes him look very religious. Like he says, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that mitzvah. Really, he's telling you to do an avera, do a sin. But he dresses up. He's called a tzefaini. He hides himself. He makes himself look very religious. There's a term among Hasidim called the Chasidische Yetzer Hara. That the Yetzer Hara sometimes makes it look like he's a real big chassid, and you should really listen to him. And that's why sometimes you have to be very careful to know what's the right choice. Sometimes the right choice is not so clear. It looks very gray because the Yetzer Hara does such a great job dressing himself up, makes it look like this might be a mitzvah or that's a mitzvah. Really, it's a sin. And but the Yetzer Hara is a tzefaini. He's the hidden one. And that's Yoel called him that. So that's the 7 names that he's called. Then the Gemara said, Tana Rabbanon, the rabbis taught in the Brisa, it expounded on that pasuk about the tzefaini. And it mentions that I will get rid of him. I will remove him. Archik me'alechem. I will bring him far from upon you. That's the Yetzer Hara. That's hidden in the heart of man. And the pasuk says, "V'hidachtiv." I will expel him. I will banish him to a land of Tzia Ushmama, this land that's dry and desolate. This means to a place that people aren't there. You won't be able to get people to sin. It's interesting. The previous Gemara mentioned about slaughtering the Yetzer Hara. Here it mentions that he's going to expel him. So it's a little unclear if that means that this opinion is arguing or it basically is the same thing. He's going to expel him to this land. It's similar to shechting him, removing his power. Maybe that's what it means. Shechting him maybe just means removing his power. But basically, the term here that's being used is that he's going to banish him, expel him to a place where he can't bother people, can't get people to sin. And he says why? Because he took advantage. He destroyed the first Beis HaMikdash. He killed the scholars. He destroyed the second Beis HaMikdash. He killed the scholars, and his smell and his stench has gone up, and he leaves the nations and he bothers the Jews. And I mentioned yesterday that seemingly is what that might be the main reason why Hashem gets rid of him completely, is because he really was inappropriate. He was not acting justly. And then the pasuk says higdal lasais, and he acted in abundance, which is the scholars. He really caused them. He put much more pressure on them than everyone else, on the Talmidei Chachamim, which is something that we're seeing here. But the scholars seem to have a much bigger Yetzer Hara than everyone else. That, in other words, the more knowledgeable a person is, the bigger a Yetzer Hara that he has. And the Gemara continues with that idea, with this story that it mentions. That so Abaye says this, that the scholars he hurts more, and then the Gemara brings a story with Abaye. So Abaye says this, that the Talmidei Chachamim he bothers more, and then the Gemara says that Abaye had a whole story over here. What was the story? He heard two people talking, a man and a woman. Man and a woman were talking. You know what? Let's take a little trip somewhere. We're both heading somewhere. So they both go on this little travel. They're both traveling in the same direction. Let's go together. They walk together a few hours. Tlasa Parsi. They walk together. Ba'agma. Interesting. The Gemara mentions, where were they walking? In some type of it sounds like a marsh, or at least a field, a meadow. He uses the term agam. Agam normally means where there's water. But Rashi over here says, does Rashi mention anything over here? Let's go. He just says, let's go together. Let's get up before the day starts, and then they before light. Nashkim b'hashkama koidem hayoim. Before the day comes, we should already get up, and then they separate. Rashi doesn't really say clearly what this refers to, but anyway, they would seem like they were going in some type of field or some type of wetlands, and anyway, so they're going together. And Abaye says, you know what? Let me go with them because I don't want them to sin. And if the third person is there, then maybe they won't sin. So they go together, and then everything seems to go very smoothly. And they even, they mention to each other, okay, now we gotta each go on our own way. It was very nice. It was very pleasant together. It's tzavsin besima, our connection, our friendship was very pleasant, and our attachment, our discussion, our relationship was very pleasant, and they both go on their way. And Abaye is like blown away. Wow, if I was the one, if it was my enemy, which basically means if it was me, I wouldn't have been able to withstand this test from sinning. And he felt very bad, and he felt depressed, like how is it that I am so much worse off than this regular guy who didn't sin? And he felt a little depressed, dire. So some elderly man came, and some say that elderly man refers to Elijah. Or sometimes when it says an elderly man came, it refers to Elijah. Anyway, he told him that, whoever is bigger than his friend, his Yetzer Hara is even bigger than the other ones. So don't be surprised that you wouldn't have been able to withstand the test. You are greater than this guy, and therefore your Yetzer Hara is much greater, is much stronger.
What's happening?
You need it now? Yeah. Okay.
And it's brought down in Musar Sfarim, in the Chaim Shmulevitz brings down over here that what you see is not just that the Yetzer Hara is relative to a person's greatness. That's how big the Yetzer Hara is. So it's proportionate. It's actually disproportionate. the greater a person is, he gets an even much stronger Yetzer Hara, because he says if it was just proportionate, so then the Yetzer Hara of Abaye should have been the same as the Yetzer Hara for that man, because just Abaye's would have been relative to his knowledge, he would have had a stronger one, a stronger Yetzer Hara, because relative to his awareness and ability to understand the severity of the sin, his Yetzer Hara would have had to be stronger, and the other man's would have been a little less. But ultimately, it would have been the same Yetzer Hara that they're both going to be dealing with, each one on their level, according to the Yetzer Hara that's appropriate for them. And here, the Gemara says, no, you gadol mechaveiroi, you're bigger than your friend. Your Yetzer Hara is going to be greater than his, meaning disproportionately greater. And that's why Abaye's was much stronger than this other man's. That's the way he understands it. There is a big question here in halacha. This is a topic of a little discussion, because the question is, what was Abaye really doing? Abaye was going with this man and another woman, and they were basically transgressing a prohibition of yichud. Now, yichud with two men, yichud means to being secluded with a woman. Is a woman allowed to go with two men? A woman can't hang out with one man in like a secluded area, because that would be called yichud. That's considered inappropriate. There's a whole discussion going into an elevator. It's not a problem, but other than that, just going, being secluded in a room, people have this big shiloh on offices, or if you have a cleaning lady, you're allowed to have a cleaning lady. You're alone at home and you have a cleaning lady. But the thing is that, so it creates questions. So it's called yichud. It could be a serious, it's a sin, even though you didn't actually do any act. But the fact that you're in the same room with this woman and it's somewhat secluded, that's already considered yichud. That's already considered a transgression. Now, that prohibition of yichud, the question is, does it apply if you have two men? You have one woman and two men. So normally, if they're kasherim, if they're kosher people, they're not like lowlives. They're not what would you say, like street, they're not lowly. They don't act in inappropriate ways. So they're regular people. So two men should be okay to be with a woman. In other words, if there's two men in the office, you don't have a problem of yichud. But that only works by day, and that works only in a regular area where there is it's populated area. But if you're going in a field or you're going at night, that is a problem. Even two men is a problem by traveling at night. So the question is, Abaye went, and they went in this agma, in this field. It seems that it's not a populated area, and it's and they even went before the day. And they got up early. It says the naktim ezel, naktim and ezel. So the question is, was this even allowed for Abaye to do this? He thought he was preventing a big sin, but really he actually himself was possibly sinning, because this is called yichud. So commentaries mention that one of the poskim says that the reason why this wasn't a problem was because as long as Abaye would plan on leaving whenever, in other words, the issue of two men is if one of them has to, let's say, do something, he has to go to the bathroom, he has to leave for a moment, then the other man is going to have yichud with the woman. But if you plan on leaving with the man, like let's say he has to go to the bathroom, so one of the men leaves. So if you plan on walking away yourself, then it's not a problem of yichud. The whole issue of yichud is only when one of them is going to leave and you're going to stay there. If you plan on leaving with him, that would not be a problem of yichud. And so that would be understanding how Abaye was able to do this. Anyway, ultimately, Abaye did this, and it seems like he saved the other guy from yichud. Now, the Gemara continues and mentions that Rabbi Yitzchok says the yetzer of a person is meskaber olav b'chol yoim. Every day it gets stronger on him. It's miskaber all of it strengthens itself b'chol yoim each day in order to get the person to sin, and the understanding is that it says here rak ra kol hayoim, just bad all day. And the understanding is, Rashi says, Kol hayoim ra'asei mitoisefes, mitoisfes. The whole day, his evil gets more, grows. That the Yetzer Hara gets stronger. And the understanding is that the pasuk didn't have to say Kol hayoim; could have just said Rak Ra. The desire of man, the evil of man is his thoughts, and Kol Yetzer Machshavos Liba is Rak Ra. Why does it have to say Kol hayoim? Or so the understanding is that it's showing that it gets stronger throughout the day. And so that's the understanding here, and that's where we ended off. That Rabbi Yitzchok says the Yetzer of a person is meskaber of b'chol yoim. It strengthens itself on the person, and it continues. I think strengthen itself even more throughout the day. Rak kol hayoim, like the Torah is hinting to us that it's you have to be careful. Don't think that you've conquered it. You conquered it once, not necessarily is it over. It's getting stronger. So, yes, Jeffrey.
I don't understand the story that way. I understand the story that he decided to follow them. He trailed after them, so that if it was necessary, he would interrupt. And he was not with them. He didn't make up the deal with them. And he watched them, and when they came to the place where they had to separate, he saw how they said goodbye to one another. Then, so he was there to try to prevent a problem, and he was watching. And we had the same story. I just haven't had time to look through Tanis again, but the same story was there. And so what he did wrong was that he's choshed ksherim. He has no reason really to doubt the capability of these people, but he thought that if it's what kind of people would he hear talking? It would be people that were of his stage or his community or his maybe even scholarly level. So then
I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying that he didn't walk close to them? He was very far from them? Is that
right.
What you're saying?
Right.
So
he trailed after them to watch, and if it would be necessary, he would interrupt.
So you want to say that he wasn't
part of the company.
really part of the company, but he hears them talking.
He heard them making the plan.
No, he hears them even afterwards. When they're parshi mehadadi shaminhu deka amri orchin rechika betzabtin besimus. So it sounds like he's close enough to hear them.
Yeah, but maybe he's even
walking right behind them.
Well,
I don't think like it's concluded in the problem of could be a problem of yichud.
I didn't see it that way, but he was going to prevent it and something like that. Maybe he even got dressed in a way that he wouldn't be recognized. So it made there's people on the road, So first of all, in the ancient times, people typically left on a journey very early, even when it was still dark, because it was getting lighter, and it's light before the sun comes up. So they left very early. This is a general habit of the ancient world that we don't have anymore. And also, they are on a road that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all private. It doesn't mean that there's not somebody's going to come along and pass them on the road.
Right, but it does say ba'agma, which gives that implication that it's a field, not a regular road. I think that's why it says bi'agma.
But doesn't it say later that they came to the separation of the roads?
Well, not exactly. It doesn't use that term. It uses a term when they were parshi mehadadi. They said orchen rechika. I guess you could translate orach as a road, but we are places. Now I think orcha is a place. So it means a place, far place. We're going to different places. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, it deserves more attention, but I think you could understand it a slightly different way. And
In other words, your answer to the question is that maybe he didn't walk so close to them. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That maybe he didn't walk so close to them, so it wasn't considered an issue of yichud. You know, if you're walking
and
far
he
away,
and
it's not really not much
he's
of a
sort of
yichud.
he's sort of spying on them.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
because he doesn't.
I like that. I like your answer. It's definitely seems like an interesting answer. I didn't see if the commentaries have other answers. I mentioned one, but I have to see if maybe others mention that. That's it's an interesting thought. It is a little problem that he hears them so clear. He hears them talking. So it's that gives a implication like maybe he is much closer. But anyway, definitely maybe he just got closer at the end when they were leaving. He saw them finalizing everything, saying goodbye. So he got closer. Maybe possible to maybe learn such a shot. I have to think about it. Okay, yeah, sounds like a good shot. Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, so anyway, the Gemara now is talking about what do you do with the Yetzer Hara and how do you control it. And this is a big, of course, topic of discussion in Musar Sfarim, dealing with the Yetzer Hara. How do you win over it? How can a person win over it? It's so almost impossible to win over. And as it says, it's even like it's meskaber olav. It strengthens throughout the day. It gets even stronger. And a person who's greater than his friend, Yitzchok Gadol Heimenu. And we'll soon see where the Gemara says that actually this next little piece of Gemara says if Hashem didn't help you, you wouldn't be able to win over it. It's like it really is strong. It's powerful, the Yetzer Hara. So let's continue. So we're on page 52b on the top line. Amar Reb Shimon ben Lakish. Reb Shimon ben Lakish says, the Yetzer of a person strengthens himself. The inclination of a person strengthens himself. He wants to get the person he wants to kill him. What does that mean? Well, the way it works is that the Yetzer Hara, it's a whole. He's got a whole plan. He's very well planned out. And what he does is he first gets you to sin, and then he goes straight to heaven in the Satan in heaven, and he says, look, he prosecutes you. So he is the inclination, the evil inclination, and then he's the prosecutor. So he has it all planned out. He's got his prosecution all ready. So he gets you. It's a typical like some people from like a typical government type of guy who frames you. Then he prosecutes, and then he's the Malach HaMavis, and he's the actual one who's meant to do the final punishment. He actually hands it out.
Who Malach HaMavis?
Yetzer Hara who Asatan who Malach HaMavis. That's right. That's a Gemara. Thank you, Isaac. So this this pasuk is referring to that. He's Sefer Rasha Latzadik, as it says in the pasuk. Sefer Rasha Latzadik u'mavakesh la'misay, that the Yetzer Hara awaits for the tzaddik, and he tries to get him to sin, and he wants to kill him. And it says, if not that Hashem helps the tzaddik win, he wouldn't be able to win. As it says, Hashem won't let him, he won't leave him biyadai in his hand. And he won't make him wicked in his judgment. Meaning Hashem doesn't make sure not to leave him to get destroyed by the Yetzer Hara. He's not oiz of him. He doesn't leave him. Yes, Mordechai.
Yeah, in U.S. law, there's this concept called entrapment, where when they're trying to set up a criminal somebody so that they can catch him, that there's only a certain extent to what they can do before it's considered entrapment.
This is an American law. Is that what you're
Right,
saying? An American
right.
law. Right. So
Yes, they can't actually push you to do something that you've not shown any inclination of doing without them. If
right.
it's something where they would do it, with you, it's an interesting area, but it's the same thing you're saying here with the Sutton. He makes a
Right.
good point. He doesn't make you do it. He entices you.
But could be Mordechai is saying, based on this Gemara, he does a little more. Like if not for Hashem, you actually would sin.
Right.
Like he really has
He's not allowed to go further than that.
in American law.
No, the Malach HaMaves, the Sutton.
In Jewish law, he does a lot, and Hashem saves, but he really goes forward. He pushes. He's trying to kill, and he goes strong. And Hashem sort of saves you. Hashem is it's almost like the police car behind you is inching up to you so that you go faster, and then he goes and pulls you over. But he pushes you to go to speed, and then he and pushes tries to gets you to speed, and then then he pulls you over. But Hashem puts his car in front of you that you can't speed. Hashem blocks it. But if not that Hashem wouldn't help you, or Hashem somehow makes you be able to turn into the next lane, if not for that, you would for sure end up sinning. So this is the Yetzer Hara, that it's much stronger than you can imagine. It's if not for Hashem's help, you would for sure sin. That's the way the Gemara implies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure sin. Now, the Gemara continues and says, Tanad Yishmael, in the base medrash of Rabbi Yishmael, it was taught a brisa. In Paga B'cha Menuvel Zeh. If this menuvel, this lowlife, this Yetzer Hara, if he meets up with you, Mashchehu lebeis medrash, you should drag him into the base medrash. Now, drag him into the base medrash means seemingly to learn Torah with him, but the Gemara doesn't say learn Torah with him. It says drag him into the base medrash. So it's brought down a vart that you have to change the environment where you are. If you want to not be affected by the Yetzer Hara, go to a place where it'll be conducive for you to be able to win over the Yetzer Hara. Where you are now, you're not going to win. But if you mashcheyu, you drag him into the base medrash, there you'll be able to win, because the environment around you will give you the energy, the ability to win him over. So mashcheyu lebeis medrash, that's just a little vart. Mashcheyu lebeis medrash, drag him into the base medrash. Evanhu, if he's a type of Yetzer Hara, which is like a stone, nimayach, he'll melt. Im Barzalhu, if he's iron, mispoitzitz, he will shatter. Im Evanhu nimayach tichsiv hoikol tzami l'chulamayim. If he's stone, so he will melt, because it says all thirsty ones should go to water, and it says uchsiv avanim shachaku mayim, that water will melt stones, will grind stones. Even strong stones, water, which basically means Torah, has the ability to grind up. So if this Yetzer Hara is a stone, the Torah, the water of Torah, meaning the learning of Torah, will be able to win him over. Im Barzalhu mitzpoitzitz. If he's iron and you bring him to the base medrash and you learn Torah, the Torah will cause him to shatter. My word is like fire, and just like fire, when it hits iron, the iron sparks and, so to speak, similar to like shattering. So also here, it's like my word is like fire. It says Hashem, and like a hammer shatters a rock. So I'll be able to shatter this iron with learning Torah. The fire, Rashi uses the term, it's mefafeas habarzel. It permeates the iron, and it's the nitzitzis, the sparks fly from it. So you'll basically get rid of the Yetzer Hara. Now the Gemara continues and says that Amar Reb Shmuel bar Nachmani, Amar Reb Yonasan, Shmuel bar Nachmani says the name of Yonasan, Yetzer Hara masisa la'adam b'olam hazeh, u'meir olav l'olam haba. He gets you to sin in this world, and then he testifies against you in the next world. Shenamar, as it says, mefanek minoyar avdoi, to his servant, which we're referring to the Yetzer Hara, he pampers, or he spoils him, and from young, from minoyar, from youth, and his eved, his servant. In other words, he gives in to his Yetzer Hara from young. And in the end, he's going to be a witness, and he's going to ultimately be testifying against him in Olam Haba. So the Gemara has to figure out what is the meaning of this pasuk in Mishlei, in Proverbs, that it says afterward, in the end, he'll be a monain. What's monain? The Gemara says that monain means a witness, because in some type of a gematria style calculation, the word monain is the same word as sahada. Word monain equals sahada. How does that word equal this word? Shekain ba'at bach, a new type of gematria here. Page 52 in Sukkah, we've got a new type of calculation of numbers. It's called atbach. Many people are familiar with atbash, where the aleph and the tuf, the base and the shin. This is different. Atbach is aleph tes, base ches. And basically it has something to do with numbers that are between 1 and 9 that add up to 10. And numbers between 10 and 19 that add up to 20. And numbers between and numbers between 20, no, there are no letters between 10 and 20, excuse me. Numbers between Yud and Tzaddik and 90 that add up to 100. That's what it is. Between 10 and 90 that add up to 100, those numbers also are those letters are interchangeable. So, and then you have the letters that are above 100 that equal together 1,000. How do you have numbers that equal together, letters that equal 1,000? Because you have Kuf Resh Shin Taf is 100, 200, 300, 400. That's Kuf Resh Shin and Taf. But then you have Menatzpach, all the end letters of the alphabet, that those letters have a numerical value now. That you have the final mem is 500, the final nun is 600, the final samach is 700. No, there's no final samach. The final, excuse me.
Menatzpach.
Menatzpach, the final tzaddik. No, menatz, mem nun, 500, 600, mem nun, samach ayin pei. Pei would be 700, if that makes sense.
And
no,
then
I think
Tav.
tzaddik is 700 and pei is 800. I think it switches.
Here he says here that the mem and the samach and the nun and the hay and the vav and the
One
dal.
second, I didn't get to that. David, you have to wait a second.
Oh,
David, just
sorry.
wait a second. The mem. Oh, you have chaf. I skipped one. That's why. You have the final chaf.
Right.
final chaf we skipped out first. That's 500. The mem is 600. The nun is 700. And the pay is 800. And the tzaddik is 900. Okay.
It's
So now
not,
if you
it's not
add
manspach. They put the chaf ahead
the
and
end,
then
right?
the-
Yeah. But it should be chaman tzaf. That's really what it should be, right?
Right.
So the chaf is first. Okay, thank you. So yeah, so what it comes out is that when you can add two letters together that equal 10, those letters are interchangeable. So, and when you have numbers, letters that equal 100 together, those two numbers are interchangeable. And then when you have numbers that equal 1,000 together, those two numbers are interchangeable. And then when you have numbers that can't match up, like for example, the you cannot add any other letter to the number, to the hey, to 5,
itself.
that will make 10. And you can't add any number to 50 that will make 100. And you can't add any other letter to 500 that will make 1,000. Those letters, so ultimately those few letters are also interchangeable. So that would be like the
So it's
hey,
the middle one. It's just the 5 and the 50.
5 and the 50 and the 500.
Correct.
So those three are interchangeable. So what comes out from this is that you ultimately have the word manoin equals sahada. How do you have manoin equals sahada? So mem is interchangeable. The 40 is interchangeable with a 60, with samach. That's the samach of sahada, a witness. The nun, the second nun and the final nun are the 50, and that is equal to a hey. That can be interchanged with the letter hey, because both of those numbers, letters which equal numbers, don't have no option of finding another letter that will make it equal a 10 or 100 or 1,000. So therefore, those numbers are interchangeable. And it would be hey, nun, and chaf. Those are the three letters that are the letters that have a value that can't add up, because the 5, no other number will add up to 10 except another 5, which is not, you can't say it's interchanged with another hey, because that'll still be a hey. And the 50 and the 20, which is the final chaf, is also one of those, because that equals 500, and you can't find any other hundreds that will equal 1,000. So hey, nun, and chaf are interchangeable. So you have the nun of manoin, the second nun, and the final nun, which is going to be interchanged with the hey. And then we're left with the vav, the letter vav, which is interchanged with a dalet, because 6 and 4 equal 10. So those are numbers the word, so manoin we're translating to mean sahada. So now we figured out how the word manoin really refers to sahada. Mordechai, I think David wanted to say something first. David, did you wanted to say something? David?
No, just what you just said.
Oh, okay. Mordechai.
Yeah, I read that a pirish on when Bilam says Hain on Amlevadad Yishkon, the Hain, I mean, according to this system, the Hay doesn't have a partner and the Nun doesn't have a partner, which indicates that the Yidden don't have a partner.
From the Hay and the Nun, both of them.
Right.
Hain. Right, interesting. So that was based on this calculation, the Hay and the Nun, or like it was based on this Atbach? Very nice. Very nice. Shkoyach, wow. Nice addition over here. Okay, good. Okay, now the Gemara continues. Rav Huna Rami. Rav Huna has a contradiction. Siv, it says, did everyone follow that, or should I go over the numerical calculations? Everyone followed it? I hope it was clear enough. If anyone wants, I'll go over it one more time. Anyone? No? We got it? Okay. Rav Huna Rami. Rav Huna has a contradiction. Siv ki ruach zenunim hissa. It says in the pasuk that the spirit of Zenunim, Hissa, These are poetic verses. It's a little hard to translate. Any of you have the art scroll over there? Robert, you want to help us out over here? Ruach, just hard to find words to translate these. Hissa is to trick you. What's how does it translate? Ruach zenunim hissa. Anyone for this? It's a pasuk in Hosea. We're on page 50.
The spirit of harlotry caused them to err.
The spirit of harlotry, hitta, tricks you or causes you to err. Okay, so the Gemara says that there's a contradiction. It sounds like this is an outside source. Ruach zenunim is what's causing you to err. And then it says uksiv, and it says another pasuk, the next chapter, it says ruach zenunim bekirbam. The spirit of harlotry is inside them. It sounds like it's coming from the inside that it's causing you. So where is the Yetzer Hara? Is it from within or from without? So the Gemara answers that B'tchila Hissam. In the beginning, it comes, it tricks you to go after the Yetzer Hara. In the end, the L'psaif B'kirbam, when you can follow the Yetzer Hara and it enters inside and it's into your heart. It enters inside you, and you ultimately becomes part of you. It's natua belibam, Rashi adds. It's like planted in your heart. So it's not just getting you to sin from like some external pressure and some type of like trickery or mistake. The way Rashi seems to understand it is like a toos. Like initially, it's more like a mistake. Like it's very slight. Similar to the Gemara we learned earlier, that the Yetzer Hara starts out like a spider web, but then it gets strong like a strong rope. So here also it seems to, based on this pasuk, it seems to be saying a very similar idea, maybe the same idea, that the Yetzer Hara gets stronger after you listen to it. And it not only gets strong, I guess it's a different idea. It not only gets stronger, but it becomes part of you. It enters into you, and it's bekirbam. It's planted in you. It can't leave. It's like one of those, like you get one of these, whatchamacallits, that like a tenant that you can't get out. You can't evict. You know, they find some lawyer you can't evict him. This stays inside you, and it just causes you tzaras. Now, Amar Rava B'tchila Karai Halach. First, the Yetzer Hara is called a sort of like a wanderer. It does, V'lebsoif Karai Oreach. Then he's called a guest. And then he becomes like an owner, balabas. He becomes gets quite comfortable. Shenemar, as it says in the story where Nasan Hanavi was telling David HaMelech off for his sin with Bathsheba, and he told him that you are similar to, and he gave him a whole parable, and he said, this parable, this is you. And what was the parable? That there were two people in the city. There was a rich person and a poor person. The rich person had a lot of tzayin, a bakar, a lot of cattle, and sheep, and cattle, many. And the poor man only had one sheep, a small sheep. And it symbolized David HaMelech with all his wives, and Uriah just had one wife. And the man came by Yavai Halech Leish Ha'asher, and some wanderer came to the wealthy man. And he felt, bad to take from his own sheep and bakar cattle for the guest. And it says, so he went to his neighbor, the poor man, who had one sheep. He said, this is the one I'm going to give you. This is the parable. And he gave it to the man who came to him. And he says, this is you, David HaMelech. This is what you did. And what does that refer to? It refers to the Yetzer Hara. That the Yetzer Hara keeps it. No, they could have the Nasan Hanavi gave him this very nice parable, but he didn't have to keep switching the guest. He could have called him a guest the whole time, or could have called him a wanderer. Instead, he starts off as a wanderer, then he calls him a guest, then he calls him an ish. So the understanding is that it's hinting to the fact that the Yetzer Hara starts off as just a wanderer. He happens to be popping by, and you could easily shoo him away, and then he becomes like a guest, and then he becomes like a balabas. Amr Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says a very famous Gemara. The Gemara says that Amr Rabbi Yochanan says, Ever katan yesh lo la'adam. Person has a small limb.
Man, not a person, a man.
A man. Ever katan yesh lo la'adam. A man has a small limb. Mar ivai, if you hunger it, meaning you don't give into it, you have this small limb, which refers to the private area. If the person doesn't give into it, he hungers it. Saveya, it'll actually feel satisfied, or he'll feel strong. Masbiya, if you give into it too much, then ra'ib, it's always going to be hungry, or you're always going to feel weak. Shenemar, as it says, kimarisam vayispo, that if a person brings bad marisam to his body, in other words, that he pains his body, which is he withstands his desire, then vayisbo, it'll actually feel satisfied and he will feel stronger. And so it's a famous Gemara that's brought in many Musar Sfarim and so on, that the person, you think you give in to the Yetzer Hara, you'll finally feel satisfied. It doesn't work that way. It's when you hunger your Yetzer Hara, that's when you actually overcome the Yetzer Hara, you'll feel satisfied. And the way Rashi learns it is that his body will be weak or strong, that you'll have more strength if you don't overindulge in marital relations. Amar Reb Chana bar Acha. Chana bar Acha says, Amri Bei Rav, in the Beis Medrash of Rav. Or Rav Chana bar Acha said that they said in the Beis Medrash, it was said, Amri Bei Rav, it was said in the Beis Medrash of Rav, Arba, 4 things, Mescharet Aleim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem regrets. Of course, this is you have to say, so to speak, Hashem regrets. Shebaram, that he created them. What are these 4 things? Velohein Golus, exile, Kasdim, the Kasdim, which it's referring to those that destroyed the first Beis Hamikdash. We generally call them the Babylonians. Yishmaelim, the Arabs. Hashem regrets creating them. The Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hara. So the 4 things Hashem regrets: the exile, the Kasdim, those that destroyed the first Beis Hamikdash, Yishmaelim, and the Arabs and the Yetzer Hara. Very interesting. It doesn't mention the Romans. Mentions the Yishmaelim. Maybe because the Golus of Rome is really a mixture of Rome and Yishmael, and it's brought down because Yishmael married into Esav. So it's really a combination of the two. But the term the Gemara uses is Yishmaelim, but maybe it also refers to the Romans and the Arabs. Golus Tichsiv, what's the source of Golus? It says in the pasuk, Viata Mali Foy, what do I have here? Hashem says, Hashem Kilukach Ami Chinam, that my nation was taken for nothing. In other words, how did I allow this? Why do I find myself? Mali Poi, what am I doing here? Says Hashem. That my nation is taken, that means Hashem is regretting it. And of course, this is referring to Hashem himself is in exile. And he's saying, what am I doing here? Says Hashem, Kilukach Amichina, my nation was taken for nothing. I was foolish to let them take my nation. And this is his regret. This is Hashem's regret. Kastim, Dechsiv, as it says in the Nevuah about the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, Yerushalayim, or Tzur, Hein Eretz Kasdim, Zeh Ha'am Lo Haya. I wish this nation wouldn't be. This nation in Eretz Kasdim wouldn't be. I wish.
If only.
If only. Okay. It's another term for I wish. Okay. If only. I'm just looking at Rashi over here. Loi haya. Einai kedai b'halavai loi haya. I wish it wouldn't be. Rashi uses this. Einai kedai. It's not fit. And halavai loi haya. Halavai it wouldn't be. I wish it wouldn't be. Now, Yishmaelim, the Arabs, the Chsiv, as it says, Yishlayu ayalim l'shoidedim, uvatuchais l'margizei el la'asher hevi elei abiyodai.
What's up? You have a buyer? Yes. Oh, congratulations.
Okay. We're just looking at this pasuk. The pasuk. Well, 1 second. Where's this pasuk? It says Yishlayu ayalim. It's a pasuk in Eov. Yishlayu ayavim. I'm just looking for the full pasuk here. Oh boy. Eov. Yishlayu ayavim. Yishloyu ayalim l'shaydidim v'atuchas magizel l'asher heviu eliyah biyada. Yeah, that's a full pasuk. So it says that basically the ones that are shoyded, that steal, the Arabs that steal are dwelling in shalva and peace in their tents. Yishloyu ayalim l'shaydidim uvatuchas, in their like secure. L'margize kel. They are the ones that are making Hashem angry, Margize Kel, they are like dwelling in security. So
shall I read what it says here?
Yeah, 1 second. Let me just finish the pasuk. La'asher hevi elika biyadoi. And Hashem caused this. This is what Hashem caused, that he brought to the world. That it's almost like he's regretting that he created them. Yes, David.
It says the tents of the robbers prosper, and they that provoke Hashem are secure in whatsoever Hashem brings with his hand. And then it says it means to say Hashem brought upon himself, so to speak,
his fault.
These Arabs that dwell in the deserts, in tents.
Right. So the pasuk doesn't actually use the word Arabs. The pasuk uses the word shaidadim, which basically means ganovim, but it's referring to the Arabs because yuya pera adam yadei bakol. It's a pasuk in the Chumash so it refers to the Arabs that dwell in their tents and they pasture their mikneh kol yameim all their days. They're just shepherding their great their cattle, and this is what Hashem caused, that he brought them to the world. You know, they cause Hashem anger, even though they cause Hashem anger, that they dwell in security, and this is what Hashem brought. So meaning that he sort of that Hashem regrets creating them. And then it says the Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara d'chsev v'asher hariyosi. I will gather the Yidden in the Golus, and I will bring them from all the places that they were expelled to, and I will bring those that I pained, that I did evil to, hariyosi lahem, and that refers to it caused them bad, and that refers to the Yetzer Hara that Hashem is saying that I will sort of like I did bad to them by causing the Yetzer Hara I allowed the Yetzer Hara to get them to sin. So Asher Hariyosi is Hashem saying, that I did bad to, almost kaviyachol, so to speak, that Hashem regrets creating the Yetzer Hara, and he did bad to the people. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, El Moli Shalish Makrais Halalu, if not for these 3 verses that basically say that the sins are in the hands of Hashem, Nismaitutu Ragleim Shal Senem Shal Yisrael, that the Yidden would the legs, the Ragleim, the legs of the Yidden wouldn't be able to stand. They would be weakened. They would falter. The Yidden's legs. The actual meaning is the enemies of the Yidden, but it's a euphemism for the Yidden. These psukim are going to give us a excuse that it's like Hashem caused us to sin. If not for these psukim, then it would be like we would really be guilty. What do the psukim say? One is the one that we just mentioned, that I caused them to sin. This is a song that we sing on Yom Kippur, the night. It's kachomer. We are like chomer in the hand of the potter. We're like the clay in the hands of the potter. That so are you. That in other words, that it's not really us. It's really what the potter wants to do. It's in his hand. He could take away our Yetzer Hara. So we are in Hashem's hand, and it's up to Hashem. And the Ve'idach, in the 3rd pasuk, Vasiroisias Leva Evan Mibasarchem Nesati Lechem Lev Basar, that Hashem will remove the Yetzer Hara and give us a Lev Basar, flesh, heart of flesh. And what basically this means is that Hashem caused us to sin because he put the Yetzer Hara in us. Rav Papa Amar Afmi Hai Nami Vesruchi Yetin Bekirbachem, another pasuk as well, where it says, I put Vesruchi, I will put my spirit inside them, and I will the end of the pasuk is, and I will do what my commandments. That Hashem has the ability to make us do the right thing. So you have all these 4 psukim altogether that give a little excuse for all of our mistakes. That's Hashem. Hashem should have mercy on all of us, and we should hear B'suras Tevis and Yeshuais v'Nachomais, and we should have already the Geula Amitis Vashlema, especially with what's going on in the world. It looks like it's Ruach HaToma Avrim and Aretz, we're getting rid of a lot of the evil, and so may it be complete, and we should merit the Geula Shlema. This is a very opportune time. We should take advantage of this special time that we're in. Seems a very opportune time.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Have a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.